Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and one of the bedrocks of synagogue life throughout the centuries has been the music that has been at the center of Jewish liturgical life. The melodies of the prayers we hear as children in the synagogue very often become associated with revelation at Sinai itself. The melodies we learned for such prayers as the Shema, the Aleinu, the Friday night Kiddush, the sound of the chant of the Torah or of the Haftarah, all become iconic connections between the prayers themselves and their divine origin. And throughout the Jewish centuries, those responsible for the music that has shaped our prayer experience, who had more of a role in leading a prayer service even than the rabbi, the person who serves as the Shaliach Tzibur, the representative of the congregation who leads prayer before the Aron Kodesh, the Holy Ark. That person was the Chazan, the cantor. The Chazan has traditionally occupied a magnificent stature in Jewish life and Jewish culture. Chazanut, cantorial music, has been some of the finest compositions in the world. And people have joined synagogues, remained members of synagogues, traveled miles and miles to attend a synagogue service just in order to hear an outstanding cantor, sometimes a world-renowned chazan. I want to show you a brief clip of one such chazan who continues today to make this kind of contribution, impact on contemporary Jewish life. Watch.
As I watched you light the Shabbos candles, there's a sudden glow upon your face while you're standing there whispering your prayer. None can take your place.
That extraordinary voice, of course, belongs to my very special guest and a dear friend on this edition of L'Chaim. It is my honor to introduce you to Cantor Saul Zim, the longtime chazan at the Hollis Hills Bayside Jewish Center in Hollis Hills, New York. He's a professor of Jewish music at the Academy for Jewish Religion. He's the author of some 16 books on cantorial and Jewish music and Yiddish music. He's the recipient of countless awards and honors, and a world-traveled and world-renowned performer on a wide repertoire of music, from cantorial to opera, to Broadway to rock, on the most prestigious stages around the globe. And perhaps most important of all, Saul Zim is one of the loveliest human beings you could ever know. Shalom uvracha. Thank you for joining my friend on this edition of L'Chaim. You and I have tried to grab you and put you in this seat for a long time. We've been together a long, long time.
Correct.
This is a great honor for me. And I wish you already Mazal Tov on a spectacular career. And thank you for coming here and spending some time with me talking about it on L'Chaim.
I thank you for bringing me and giving me the honor and pleasure of sharing it with you, because you have done similarly in your world.
Thank you for saying so. And we've thrilled to be able to show a number of your concerts and your musical performances on JBS. So let's talk first a bit about you, then I want to talk about music. You have a fascinating background. It's not like this came out of nowhere. You're becoming not simply a chazan, but a world-renowned chazan. I want to show you something. I have here many of Saul's books. This book is your first book, isn't it?
My first book that I ever, yes, which has the things like Sim Shalom or Adon Olam Adon or Kadeshenu B'mitzvotecha or Ledor Vador.
Ledor Vador.
Yes, Ledor Vador Nagid Gadlecha.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes. By the way, so many of the songs, of the prayers, the melodies you sing when you attend your synagogue, Saul's in. He created them. And they're now iconic. By the way, just digress for one moment. What's that mean to you? You know, every artist, and you're an artist, every artist wants, to make a difference, to be appreciated, and then to create something that endures. What's it like for you to go into a synagogue? It must happen from time to time. You go into a synagogue, and then you hear your melodies, prayers set to your melodies. What's that like for you?
Yes, it gives me quite a feeling of warmth, and it's amazing because this has been going on for many, many years. You know, this is my 54th year in my own synagogue.
Wow.
Now, what does it feel like? Sometimes I don't even get the opportunity to sit down right away.
Yes.
Because as soon as I walk into a synagogue, they'll say, "Oh, would you do Musaf for us? Would you do Shachar? Would you do the Avinu Sheba Shamayim that you wrote? Would you do that?" I said, so I don't get a chance to even sit and enjoy it, but I do get the naches that no matter where I've gone in the country, in the United States, Europe, Australia, South Africa, wherever I've been, it's been a wonderful, I've had quite a wonderful journey.
Yes, you have. And it didn't happen by accident. So I wanted to show this. You have many, many albums. This is one of your first albums.
This is my father's only album when the name was Zimmelman. And of course, my four brothers with me, which is five, were all on it, and we were his choir. And my father wanted to leave something behind. He says, "Let me make this record, and I want you to be on the record." And we did the arrangements. It was done beautifully.
How many years ago?
Oh, God.
Come on.
It must be about 1970, 76, 77.
What was your father's name?
Samuel Zimmelman. He was a chazan, a moel, and a shochet.
Okay. And
up in Portland, Maine.
In Portland, Maine.
He was there for 35 years.
Is that where you were raised?
I was not raised there. I came as soon as, actually, about 10 months to a year after I was there, and I was only 6 years old when I came there, from Toronto first.
You were born in Canada.
Well, my father came over on the last ship into Canada. He had to go into Nova Scotia because they were not letting 1939. It was July.
Okay, so we're gonna,
just prior.
Okay, so
to
backtrack for me. Your father comes from where?
From La Maza. In fact, I was just in Poland, where I did the mole for. It was the entire. I did it for the entire area of Bialystok.
Yes.
And but my father came from La Maza, which was a smaller town.
So it's a Polish Jew who gets out of before the Shoah really hits.
Just before.
And he comes to Montreal.
Yes.
And is he married at the time?
He's married with my older three brothers.
And your mother's name is?
Ida.
Ida.
Chaya.
Chaya, all right. So your father and mother come. They have 2 children already? Three.
My older 3 brothers. I am next to the youngest. Paul is my younger brother.
So you're number 4.
I'm number 4.
And Paul is number 5.
He was born in Toronto, and I was born in Montreal.
Okay. And when do you come to America?
My father comes with the entire family 1960, what am I talking about, 60, 1946. He became a chazan, a moel, and a shochet in Portland, Maine. And my father said, how are we going to be able to, how are my boys going to be able to be Jewish? And he, like all Europeans did, sent us away to Yeshiva Torah B'das. We all went, my older brother actually went in Baltimore, Ner Israel, and the next two went to Torah B'das, and I went also to Torah B'das. And so when I was 7 and a half, my father sent me away. And in fact, I have a song I wrote called Papa.
Yes.
And it's on
Oh,
my...
do a little bit. Do a little bit.
When I was a young man, I remember Papa taking me on his knee. He said, my son, you're getting older. My son, it's time you study Torah. Come with me, you must learn today. And I will take you to the yeshiva, where you will learn Torah. There you'll study for us.
I get chills.
And then I said to my father, my mother yelled. This is vivid, because I went on a Greyhound bus with my father from Portland, and he took me to New York in the biggest storm of the winter. And he says, you've got to go to yeshiva. Come with me, you must learn in the yeshiva. There the rabbi will teach you how to be a Jew. You must always be true. This is something that you must do.
Now, is that, I assume those are not the literal words, but is that the sense of what he gave you?
Well, I remember that night so vividly that I had to write a song about it, because I just felt it's when he died. I felt I wanted to write what he gave to me. He sent me away, and he wouldn't take me only to the yeshiva. It seems that as a young man, I had a bell of a sound in my voice. And my father said, I'm taking you to where I did not have the opportunity to do, which every father wants for their children. And he said, I'm going to take you, and you're going to sing with a choir. The first person he took me to was Yehoshua Weiser, who has written many, many books, a composer, a teacher. I lived in his house practically for entire summers. He taught me davening, music, theory, harmony. As a kid from the age of 7 and a half, I sang with him on Pesach. He bought me my first suit. I went to the Flagler Hotel in the mountains. And I must tell you, it was so unbelievable for me as a young boy. I sang with the most celebrated chazanim and most celebrated conductors. So I sang with him only for 2 years, because he didn't have a job after that. He was just retiring. But he was the best in New York. I used to watch Tucker walk in there, Shikoff, let's see, who else? I mean, many chazanim.
Yeah.
At that time, I think it was, you had, Erla Diamond, the ones who were in the New York area, Cup of Kagan, many people who came here.
In many ways, it was a golden age, you know.
That was the end of the golden age.
Yes.
That's when I had the opportunity I took Chazan Pinchik's job when he left in the Laurel and Pines in Lakewood. I took Malofsky's job in Lakewood also when he, and I was 19 years old. I said, how am I going to do this? But it seems I was able to.
Okay. By the way, you're 7 years old, and your father says, I'm sending you away to study in a yeshiva. Away meaning you're not going to be with your mother, you're not with your other brothers.
Correct.
How hard was that for you?
I cried, but if this is what my father said to me, I listened. And you know, how could I say? I thought about this when my own children were
Yes.
7 and 8.
Yes,
I said, how could I? How I can't? They're like little babies. And I'll never forget going on trains, raising money for the yeshiva. I used to do concerts for them when I was 10 and 11 as a little boy chazan.
Okay, so it was a different world.
Of course, it was Williamsburg, and at that time, Williamsburg was not. It was not the way it is today.
But also, what it meant to be a parent is not what it means to be a parent today.
Oh God, of course not.
And what was asked of children is not what we ask now.
Of course, most children will debate you right away. This is not what I'm going to call the. I remember when I was a little older, how they said, I'm going to call the police. I don't think you're allowed to hit me.
Did anybody hit you?
My Rebbes used to hit my knuckles. They used to with a stick.
Yeah, what'd you do to deserve the rap on the knuckles?
I was thinking about music. I wasn't thinking about Tosmas, Balsho, Maram, the Gemara, and the Pasha of the week. It was like, well, listen.
Your father wanted you to be a learned Jew,
That's exactly.
correct?
That's exactly what he did.
Did he want you to be a rabbi?
No, he knew from the get-go that I was going to grow to be a chazan.
He knew right away.
He said it was an unusual voice that I had, and I still have records of me singing with Yoshua Weiser, who was the teacher of all the great chazanim, and he made them so that my father didn't know music, unfortunately. He didn't have the opportunity. He said, my father...
He was not learned in music as you
he
became.
was very... No. He didn't, unfortunately.
By the way, it's interesting. The layperson has such a misunderstanding of what chazanut is, what a real chazan is. And incidentally, this is not to deprecate anybody today.
Of course.
But what it is to be a cantor in a modern synagogue
Yes.
is not what you were,
Oh, no.
you know? And the depth of musical knowledge and ability very often is in no way asked of today's cantor. It's a different job.
I
You
know it
understand what I mean?
100%.
Speak to that for a moment.
All right. Years ago, when what I wanted was only to be a great chazan.
And what did that mean?
That meant to me, when I was a young boy, I was always there saying, okay, you want to raise money? I'll do a concert for you. No, I'm talking about when I'm 10, 11, 12, 13. Torah Vadas, they sent me out making money. Every summer when I used to go back to Portland, right near Portland, 16 miles away is Old Orchard Beach, which all the Canadians used to come down for the summer. They used to spend, that was a very big vacation area. And I used to go there every summer, one weekend, and they'd raise a lot of money for Torah Vadas.
Okay. I want you to be as honest as you can be here.
Yes.
At 10 years old, and I might ask the same question as an adult, to what extent do you think you were driven by a love of music and performing
Not performing, love of music.
as opposed to love of Torah?
It wasn't love of Torah at that time.
It was love of music.
Love of music.
And this was the way you expressed it.
I was able to, yes. I didn't know, I played a lot of ball. People used to say, don't you want to play ball? I said, no, I have to study my music.
Because you loved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I lived it.
Yes. Okay. And you said not at the time. Was there a time in your life when the love of Torah in some way merged with your love of music?
Oh yes. When I went to Yeshiva University High School, and I came in the third year of high school. In Yeshiva University High School, though I lived in a dormitory, my older brother Sidney we really grew up together. We were very. He's the rabbi, and
What do you mean he's the people
was-
should understand?
all right.
You have 5 brothers.
5 brothers.
2 have passed.
2 have passed. Only my younger brother, myself, and the rabbi are left.
So you have one brother who is also a chazan.
Paul is a very, very good chazan.
Yes. Do you ever perform together?
No, we not now. The last record we made is right there on your table. That's the last record we made. The brothers Zim, Am Yisrael Chai. Okay? My brother's very musical and a wonderful chazan.
This, by the way, is an album of Hasidic music.
I've written hundreds of Hasidic music, hundreds of Hasidic melodies. The Am Yisrael Chai became popular when we sang it on that record. That's what started it. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael.
Okay, you didn't write that though.
I did not write it.
But it becomes popular because of you.
Yes, because of our singing it. Okay.
Yes. Okay, that's one brother, and then the other brother, Sidney.
Sydney is a
Is a
rabbi.
rabbi.
He was a rabbi for many, many years. In fact, he's not even retired. He's in the synagogue. He's not in the same synagogue. He was in Cincinnati in a very large synagogue. He then went to Fort Worth, and from Fort Worth, he retired. But then all of a sudden, another synagogue called him. You've got to be our rabbi. Today, he is chaplain all over the world for the entire country.
Wow.
He became, because he's very, very brilliant. He's a Talmud Chacham, a brilliant. He would see his area was Talmud, Mashal,
As much as you love music,
he loved that.
He loved Jewish learning, classical Jewish learning, Torah, Talmud,
yeah.
right?
And my being with him taught me quite a bit. He was going when I was at the yeshiva or the high school where I was. In fact, when we even went to the seminary. But we're 2 different personalities.
Okay.
And so, but you know what? In fact, we see each other. He's my oldest grandson is getting married, coming up
Mazal
in
tov.
a month and a half, and he's coming in, and we're all getting together. It's wonderful when the family gets together.
That is wonderful. By the way, you have how many children?
I have 2 sons.
2 sons.
They're the ones on here. That's not what they look like today, but
Yes,
that was my
they
first
were children.
book. They were 12. No, they were 11 and 12.
What are their names?
Craig and Eric.
Craig and Eric. What are they doing now?
Now, what are they doing? They're attorneys.
Very nice.
All my grandsons are attorneys, and my sons are attorneys.
Okay. None of them wanted to go to Chazanut?
Oh yes, my grandsons came over to me and said, "Dad, I want you to. Why don't you manage us? And we want to go on because they write. They write music. They play 4 instruments. They sing beautifully. They all have good voices. They write very beautiful stuff. Even something that I can't even understand because today's marketing is so different. But they all want. I said, no.
Why?
Because I felt if they were really had the voice and they could do so much better because they had their personalities were strong and yet they're very vibrant guys, all of them, 5 boys, every one of them, and they talk on every subject, and they just have a brain that is super. So I felt go into law.
Interesting.
And I pushed them. And of course my sons helped because they're attorneys and they went there. I was the one to push them.
How did your father feel about that?
My father didn't want me to go into Chazanut.
What?
He knew I was going to be a chazan, but he knew I was going to be more than just a chazan.
Your father was Orthodox.
Very.
And to what extent has that been your self-identity as you've evolved over the years?
I'm very conservative, more towards pluralistic, and I'm, to be very frank with you, I I'm probably one or the few people who go every year to Israel and sing with the Israeli Philharmonic and do heavy chazanut. Heavy, because there aren't that many people that can do that kind of material and do it meticulously. So that's a thrill
Okay,
for
I
me.
want to make sure people understand. Very often, great chazanim, when they go and perform, they don't do chazanut.
That's me.
You do.
I do one piece.
You do one piece.
I do basically a pop.
But there was a time when you didn't. You added it.
Ah, you're right. You're right.
You made a conscious decision to add it.
Because I will tell you, I used to do close to 30 to 40 shows up in the mountains, in the Catskill Mountains.
And what would the songs be?
Only pop. It was not American pop. I would do Broadway, I would do Hasidic, I would do Broadway, I do Yiddish, I do Yinglish, because I had to change it because I wanted all the generations to know. And then I would do a few things, a few things that are very popular in that time, pop songs in the top 40. So I used to do so many of these concerts up there, and it was, whether it was the Concord, Grossinger's, Kutches, Helmurak, Tamarack, I would do 30 shows a summer.
That world is gone now, Saul.
Yes, unfortunately. But still, I go around, I do scholar in residences and a concert at the end of the scholar in residence. In
Everywhere.
synagogues, everywhere. I have been everywhere for that.
And you're tremendously appreciated for that.
Because they don't realize that a lot of the songs that they sing
Yes.
came from my hand.
Yes. Yes. But you have to miss the days when there were the Catskills.
Oh,
and
I miss it terribly because there's only one other fellow who did what I did, but he went even further. He did a Broadway show, and that was
Dudu Fisher.
Dudu. He's the only, and he uses a lot of my music. He does.
Yes, but Dudu comes from a different perspective. He really was an Israeli.
Yes. Okay. I don't forget. My father came on the boat with a beard, a capota, a gartel. He came and they said, if you want to get a job here in America, in Canada, I think you should take that off.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I want to show you something.
That was for the conservative, for the reform.
Because lo and behold, people should understand the breadth of the music you create is not simply within the Orthodox world. And I have two books here, The Spirit of Shabbat, Volume 1, and The Spirit of Shabbat, Volume 2. Tell our audience, who were these books created for?
For the reform movement, because I was asked to. And I still, they were created because I myself felt the change of what's happening in the entire world. See, I was the first one who wrote a lot of things like Sim Shalom Tova. I mean, I can keep going. I don't want to keep going and keep singing those songs that I've done that you would recognize.
But
However,
I like it when you're doing it. Oh, just do a little more Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom Tova Ubracha Chen V'Chesed B'Rachamim B'Rachamim Aleinu V'Yal Kol Yisrael V'Yal Kol Yisrael Amachom. Anyway, that's
chills, just chills.
Oh, come on. And so I had the need to write things like this, to write things that were what were happening everywhere. For the reform movement, I still, every year, another book comes out with them. I get a call from their publisher. We want you to write 3-4 pieces. Would you put it in? So here I am. I come from a completely different world, as you said.
That's my point.
But I understand the genre.
Yes.
And I understand it well. And I know don't forget, I teach chazanim and many rabbanim. In fact, I'm doing a class right now where I teach at the Academy for Jewish Religion. I teach things like rabbis and cantors, how to get your congregation to be a community, into community singing, to make it work.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment. Because I mentioned already, there has been an evolution of what Jewish synagogue music is in your lifetime. You have seen a dramatic evolution, and I don't know the extent to which our audience understands, but many of them are our age who are watching right now, and they can remember what it was to go to a synagogue in the 40s and the 50s and even the 60s, what wasn't permitted, what would have been a shanda, which has now grown into the most vibrant reality, so that if a synagogue doesn't have rich music, it's lacking something. So I want you to take a moment. Do you remember the time when, number one, there was no such thing as a female cantor?
Of course.
The issue of musical instruments in a synagogue, regardless of how much they were in the temple days, there was this reverence. We'll remember the temple. It's,
Yes,
it's a Jewish way of thinking.
Of course.
We'll remember the temple by not doing what they did, and and Jews grow up thinking there never was music in the temple, where the temple was filled with musical instruments and music. And then slowly, two things and it happened again. I'm brought up when, so if you walked into a synagogue that had an organ, well, that was Reform.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay?
Today,
Everywhere there's
That's
music.
right.
Okay, so I want you to, you've seen it, not only have you seen it,
I've-
you've lived it, okay? Can you talk a little bit about
yes.
the evolution of what it means to have synagogue music? And one last thing, because I want you to include this. When I grew up, I'm in a traditional conservative synagogue for the high holidays. I'm like every other kid in that synagogue.
Was outside.
Nope, my mother and father, I always had to be inside.
Okay.
But I've got a prayer book, encyclopedic in length. I'm only looking at, how many pages do we have to go?
About 400.
You understand? How many pages? That's all people, adults and kids were
Yes,
thinking.
Of course.
And very often, there would be a chazan, and it would take him 2 minutes to do a page. And at that point, you just want to kill him. Okay.
Okay.
And
I understand.
now, it's not listening to the chazan. We will listen to you in specific
Area.
contexts, okay? But very often, synagogue life is no longer listening. It's participating.
I want to stop you right there. I was the first one who started participatory music. And
Because you thought it was important.
I'll tell you why. I was 17 and a half to 18 when I took my first job as a student cantor on weekends out in Westbury, New York, Temple Shalom. And I was there every weekend, and I used to daven, and I did know chazanut because I had listened to it all my life. And I see people sitting there like a lump on logs, all just sitting there and sitting there, not even participating, not even davening. So I started to write things like Sim Shalom or Kadeshenu B'mitzvotecha. I started writing these things, and all of a sudden, I didn't publish yet. I used to go to the conventions, the cantorial conventions, with people from the seminary, because I was at the Jewish Theological Seminary at the time, studying, and I used to sit down at the piano, and all the chazanim used to come around with their little tape recorders. I didn't have to publish. I had 200 around. Everybody, as we're walking out of the lunch, whether it's Grossingers or Concord, where they most had, or Kutcher's, where they had most of their conventions, I would have 200, 250 of just sitting there recording. My songs were known before I even published. That later on, and I did everything with a refrain. always coming back to the refrain, to the whether it was the Kadeshenu or for example, whether it's any of the pieces that I'd written. Adon Olam, Asher Molach. Then the verse, come back to the refrain. Why? I felt people didn't know how to daven yet. I started this in the 1961, 62, when I was the Chazan. And even people in the cantorial world, who were the heads even at the seminary, and he's killing Chazanut. He's going to kill Chazanut.
That's what you were charged with.
I didn't even bow my head once. I didn't say he's wrong. I just said, do what I'm doing, guys. Learn it. Don't stop, because this is what it's going to be in 20 years. I was always 20 years ahead of myself, even musically.
Yes, and Bowie, in this instance, you were not right. You were 1,000% right.
Well, and
you helped start a revolution of participatory singing.
That's right.
And you understand, it changed. It made modern Jewish life possible.
Even Reform.
Saul
Yes.
Zim, do you understand?
I never thought of it that way.
Made
But thank
modern Jewish life possible in a synagogue.
Even in the Reform movement, Mark, they were singing the Heuchel Germanic
Of course.
stuff. And then all of a sudden, some of the Reform people started singing my Shalom Aleichem Malachei, which was, in fact, I called up, they used to do the Hasidic Festival. Hasidic Festival was also partly responsible for what...
You are correct.
Okay? They were very much...
And for a period of years, they were it.
And so I called them up and I said, I want to submit a song. Oh, no. Saul, you can't, you're not an Israeli. I said, what? You have Shlomo Carlebach. He's not an Israeli. He's from Vienna. Come on. So I said, I have an idea for you. And I proposed it. I said, let's do a universal Hasidic festival. And they said, not a bad idea. But they said, I don't know anybody here or there in Australia. I said, I've been to these places. I've done concerts there. And, oh, really? So who can you sing? I said, I know somebody who will do it there. I'll get you somebody from here. Everybody will submit a song. And they all did. And that was the only festival I was on because I was not an Israeli.
Too bad, by the way. Too
No,
bad.
but
we both acknowledge the early Hasidic song festivals had an enormous impact.
Tremendous.
On
And that's
what
why I
Jewish
wanted...
music was in the synagogue.
Yes, of course.
And by the way, when you talk about the Reform movement, what the Reform movement did do was through camps, through the nifty camps.
Yes, I agree.
The song leader became an avenue for first kids who then became adults to love Jewish music. And the Jewish music was all based on liturgy, although they didn't know that. And to some extent, that is what Shlomo Carlebach did too.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And I have to tell you that no matter where I had gone to do concerts, I never went as an actual chazan.
Yes.
I went as Saul Zim.
Yes.
And I also did the following. I always put, when I was in South Africa, I was there 5-6 times different times for concerts, different years. And I have to tell you, I had 150 children on stage with me. Children. I got it was the yeshiva they had, it was the yeshiva where they actually respected, and it was Jew and non-Jew. But I had 150 children each time that I went there. And I didn't perform in synagogues. I performed in concert halls because I had 18 to 2,000 people at every concert.
Mm-hmm. So, again, and it's not like one place started it, but B'nai Jeshurun began doing music in a very unique way.
They took something that was very classic cantorial music, and they went the opposite way, and that was a chancellor of the seminary who did that. He said he didn't have a chazan in the sense that we have a chazan.
Okay, and
their music is all from South America.
But it's very beautiful, and they have, in essence, sort of an electric piano.
It's very orchestrated.
Yes. And again, this is not criticism, and yet at the same time, sometimes it goes a little too far for me.
Okay.
And it's almost like I'm at Les Mis.
Okay.
I don't know I don't need to be at a show.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? There's a thin line one has to walk
I'll agree.
between wonderful music that adds to a service and music that becomes a performance. The minute it does that, it crosses a line I'm not interested in.
Correct. And I also believe, see, it used to be in Chazanut, it was a complete performance. Now, though in the...
In a different way, right?
Yes, yes. It was, but people say to me sometime, are you actually performing when you do your Hineni, or when you do Baruch Hashanah, or when you do or on Shabbat cantor? I don't do cantor. When you do your all my melodies that I have written for Shabbat, they're sung all over the world.
Yes.
All right. Even the benching of the licht. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner v'tzivanu. It's in my first book.
It's lovely.
But even these things are done. But when I do even Chazanut, it's not performance. I interpret.
Yes.
I interpret the style, the emotional feeling of the prayer.
Okay. We show every Friday night Central Synagogue.
I know that.
Central Synagogue does a fabulous job with music, and they've added instruments over time. It begins, by the way, again, within the Reform movement with the guitar. The guitar became a major vehicle for Jewish music.
Correct.
And people, Saul, tell me all the time, conservative Jews, Orthodox Jews, how much they love the music of Central Synagogue, which is a Reform congregation.
Correct. And I think they've really come a long way, because they also, in the last, I'd say the last 8-10 years, have made that switch.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I started as a practicing rabbi. Put it differently, I become a formal rabbi in 1972.
Okay.
And in 1972, I'm leading services with an accordion.
Okay.
It's groundbreaking. Now, everywhere you go, there's music, and the accordion is come and gone already. Now
it's
violins, and flutes, and cellos, and drums.
I suggested this many, many years ago to so many of my friends. I said, it'll give a different dimension. Take these melodies, don't just sing them. My Havdalah, I said, I never start my concerts without doing my Havdalah, and I do the whole thing, and it's also sing-along. It's all,
I'll do a few bars.
Oh,
do a little bit.
It's a 12-minute piece.
No, you're going to do 8 bars. Go.
Hine, 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 El Yeshuasi Eftach, hine, hine, hine.
Very different.
Eftach mulo Eftchan, velo, lo, 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 velo Eftchan, velo, lo, 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 velo, lo, 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 velo Eftchan. Ki oziv bezimeratya, vayhil Yeshua, ushaften mayim besasson mimayne, ha-Yeshua, ki oziv bezimerot. Then it keeps going.
It's a different experience. Yeah. What do you think of the fact that now, at HUC, for example, the Reform Movement's Rabbinical and Cantorial School, there are more female students? How you lived through a time when it was
only men.
You would never have. Okay, How do you feel about female cantors?
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
Isn't the sound spectacular?
It's wonderful.
And I resisted it.
Oh, you did?
I did. I resisted it.
A lot of people, not only you.
Because it was so ingrained in me.
Of course.
You know?
But there's a difference, Rabbi. Where I teach at the academy, it's also, we have a lot of male students, but most of the cantors or rabbis are women.
Yes, that's my point. Yes.
It's just that way.
And the sound, by the way, and when you hear a woman, and by the way, there are wonderful men cantors, and there are men cantors I don't like. There are wonderful female cantors, there are female cantors I don't like. But you hear a good cantor, whether it's a man or a woman, but you hear a woman cantor who's really good, a chazan, who sings without, you may disagree with me, the trick to being a rabbi and a cantor is you're conveying, you're representing. And it's not about God for me.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It's about the tradition.
I agree.
And if it's about you, it doesn't work for me.
And it doesn't work anywhere.
Exactly.
I'm telling you.
If, however, it's a rabbi or a chazan, a cantor, it's not about her. And it's not she wants you to notice her. She just loves what she's doing, and she has this voice. You hear, I have girls who become b'nai bat mitzvah with me, and then they come back every year and they read Torah and they read the Haftarah. I want them to go on forever, forever. Such sweet voices, and I say to myself, you know, when the prophets wrote, they were writing with that sound in their ear. We're almost out of time.
Okay.
I want to ask you two quick things.
Go ahead.
Totally out of left field. Richard Tucker, a different kind of experience.
Okay.
Richard Tucker starts as a chazan, is a classic cantor, but he makes it in the opera world. That is a model. And there was a time saw when everybody said, you know what a cantor is? A frustrated opera singer.
Well, okay.
What's your answer?
My answer. I'm one of those guys who studied 21 operas and performed them and did them in many different places with the symphony. I did Traviata, Gianni Schicchi, Barbiere di Sibiglia,
you
Così
love
fan
it.
dirige. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I got to tell you the story of that, how it happened. I went to Vienna to do my first album. And I was very, very close with Jan Pierce, okay? Jan Pierce, I used to follow him around, and Richard Tucker, okay? They were my idol. And I didn't, whenever I even did an opera, because I studied with the same teacher that Pierce was working with. Now, not that that person taught him voice or taught him how to sing. I was lucky. I got it from Kurt Baum, who was, when he retired, I went to his apartment on Central Park South, and I said, I want you to teach me, because I knew I wasn't in complete control of my voice. And I didn't, if I was doing Cagelli, La Speranza, in Cagelli da Manina from Bohème, I said, I don't want to have a problem hitting the high C. Anyway, after I begged him, he taught me. I studied those operas, and I went to Vienna to record my first album, my first Jewish album. I came back, and while I was there in Vienna, because I did it with the symphony, that's why I went there, Pierce told me where to go. I recorded my first album. It's in a big church, and they have all the stuff that you need, and it's wonderful. And here I am, I must have been about 25. Pierce says, you're not ready. One of my first CDs, I don't know if you have them here, but one of my first CDs, he said, well, anyway, I came back because just to continue the story, I came back, but I also auditioned for the Vienna Staatsoper. And I got a contract with them. I came back to my wife and I said, I had 2 little boys. I said, June, we're going to Vienna. She says, I said, wait a minute. I think I was making $10,000 in the synagogue at that time, or 12,000. And then I said, and I just heard about a job open in Chicago where Tucker used to be. I'm going there. I'm going to audition for the job, and believe me, I'll get it. So
You'll make a lot more money.
hold on, I'll make double.
Yeah.
10,000 and 10,000. I'll make double what I'm making now. She said, here's your valise, and go by yourself. I don't want my kids going at that time, her brain, to a school where they're only going to learn German, and et cetera, et cetera. This was Vienna. And I only had to sing 3 operas a week. Anyway, that changed my whole mind.
Was she right?
Well, when that happened, yeah, I never even missed it. I'll tell you why. Opera was very confining, different. I couldn't be creative, operatic-wise. And I always had a creative mind in terms of music. I wrote the alma mater when I went to Yeshiva University High School. I was in the 3rd year. I said, how come you guys don't have an alma mater? They said, and I don't know I didn't even know what an alma mater was. I was a yeshiva bacher. I'm a yeshiva bacher. So I figured I'm going to graduate next year. That's what you should hear at a graduation. I sing it, and I went. I said, we're going to have an alma mater. I wrote it. Till this day, it's still in every yearbook. I saw that. In this, and because Yeshiva University High School became very religious. It's different today. It's black hat.
Different world. Different
All
world.
right. But it's still more modern than the other places.
Everything's relative, isn't it, Saul?
Tell me about it. So anyway, I didn't go, and I never regretted it.
That's wonderful to hear.
I must tell you. You know why? I said, okay, June. I didn't take that job, and I didn't take the Chicago job. Where I was going to get a high, just for the high holidays, I would have made what I was making for the entire year.
Yes.
And I never regretted it because I said, you know what? I'm going to do concerts. That's what I'm going. At that
Do
point,
you understand it was to our good fortune. You must thank your wife from me.
thank
That
you.
is a fabulous
I thank her
story.
for that too.
That is a
But it's a true
fabulous-
story.
I believe it. Okay, one more question. We haven't talked at all about Israeli music, but I'm going to ask you about one Israeli composer, Naomi Shemer.
You're talking about the top of the top.
Yes.
Yes. She had a gift, a real gift, for really writing. For example, the Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. When it came out, she knew about it prior. She knew that it was going to become a state. She wrote it and was ready to, I'd spoken to her many, many times when I was in Israel. Because I've been to Israel probably 25, 30 times in my life, and I go all the time. But I have to tell you, she had an enormous feel for the country, and she was able to live like a chazan lives his material.
Yes.
Like I live what I
Yes.
write. I
Yes.
won't let it go out until I feel that the emotion of
so
that
she
piece.
was a genius.
She was a genius.
Okay.
She had a tremendous ability to catch the flavor. She really created a style for Israel, because Israel's style of Jewish music till her, was mainly Russian. It was a Russian, because I analyze music, okay? So it was really Russian in its style, and it didn't have the, she made it an Israeli sound in anything she did. I admired her tremendously. I do a whole medley of Shemer material, because I think she was the only one who captured the emotion of Israel. And I felt it, and I feel it when I sing it. And I have it arranged for choir and orchestra, and when it's done, people love it.
You're a treasure. You're an absolute. You're one of the Jewish treasures of the world.
Oh, thank you.
Now that I know the story of your wife talking you out of becoming an opera singer, you must tell her. You must give her my love.
I will.
she really made enormous difference on the world Jewish stage. The work you've done has elevated all of us, and I've been honored to tape some of your concerts and show them over and over again, and I hope I do many, many more. And we're only putting a semicolon here. We will continue this,
Okay.
and I want you to come and we'll sing some more. Kol tuv v'hatzlacha.
And Kol Tuv to you, you should continue doing what you're doing because God has blessed you and given you such a wonderful, this is your torch of making people come alive through your shows, and I watch them all the time. God bless you.
Thank you very, very much. Saul Zim, one of world Jewry's leading chazans, cantors, musical performers, an individual who's using the power of music. You can tell he generates enthusiasm for and a connection to Jewish tradition, Jewish life. And he is the chazan at the Hollis Hills Bayside Jewish Center in Hollis Hills, New York, if you ever want to hear him. And by the way, he's written 16 books. They're all kinds of, from classical chazanut to the Reform movement. He's got many CDs. If you want to listen to this man's music, there is no end of joy you will have by spending time with the music of Saul Zim. Toda
Thank you
rabah,
so much.
toda rabah.
Thank you.
As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have to any of the ideas expressed on this edition of L'Chaim. Please email me, write me. You can post on my Facebook page or you can tweet me. I love hearing from you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'Chaim, my friends, to life.
L'Chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please, indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.